This is an interesting question here. Did the founding fathers of the USA have a message for us?
Ooh,
Now,
that's
that's a
fun.
good one.
Yeah, you want to?
Well, I'm just if I could just say this real quick. I remember you asked this question a few years ago. I think it was during the first Trump administration, and you had guides reassure you we're going to survive this. We'll be okay. He's just a quote unquote a bad president, but we will survive him. We will move on. We will prevail. I don't know if that's still the situation, but
I think it is because, some people say that we have moved so far from the Constitution that the founding mothers and fathers wouldn't even recognize it. You look at the writings of Abigail Adams. I don't know if anybody's read anything from Abigail Adams, but she was an extremely egalitarian, very much an intellectual and very much an equal to John Adams. But
yeah,
you see in their correspondence the construction of what will be the Constitution.
yeah,
And yet she, of course, is given no credit, and she had no power to be there because she was female. But here she was behind the scenes writing
yeah.
these letters and helping to create what would be the
You're
Constitution.
reminding me there was a multi-part movie made about that. I think it was on HBO a few years ago. I think Laura Lindley played Abigail Adams,
Oh, it was
and Paul Giamatti he played
Paige.
Adams. Yeah, I remember that now. And also, I a title is coming to my head: The Adams Chronicles. Was that related to that? Their correspondence, or am I
Yes,
incorrect?
because
Yeah.
she was famous for saying, "Don't forget about the ladies, John." When they were
Hmm.
creating the Constitution, don't forget about
I
the
would be interested in reading that. Their
yeah.
correspondence.
But she went through everything with him, and they were strong supporters of what would become, the abolitionist movement. They were strongly
Yeah.
opposed to slavery,
Yeah.
and this was something that Abigail was very firm on. And
Wow.
so, when they were focusing on, we got to stop this, we got to put a stop to this. Yes, we got to put a stop to that, but also let's not forget the ladies. They're also being subjected to things like not owning their own property and everything else
Mhm.
that went with being a woman.
It's reminding me so much. It's like a forerunner of the kind of relationship that Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt had. They had a similar partnership. Eleanor was in many ways his closest advisor. He didn't always listen to her, much to her frustration, but he was bound to the White House. He was in a wheelchair. So Eleanor was always out on the road. She was always out talking to people. She had more of her finger on the pulse of what was going on, and she'd report back to Franklin. And she was such a passionate advocate for change and improving lives,
Hmm.
rights of people.
Well, let's take a look and see if we get any energy about any founding father or mother that wants to come through and talk to us about what's
Um,
going on. Let's see if we pick anything up. Hmm.
I'm I'm seeing some things that are rather positive and affirming. Um, they're they're acknowledging there's been a lot of shame
Mhm.
going on, but I'm getting cards, I guess in no particular order here, but um, partnerships and love, unconditional love, purpose. Like that's the purpose. That's what the Constitution was designed to be. It was based in love. It was based in purpose. It was based in partnership and love. In other words, for the highest good of humanity. That was their intention. And that's what I'm getting from this. And I'm getting that is still going to prevail, still going to prevail despite the shame that has been going on at this time.
Mhm.
I hope that makes sense. That's just what I'm feeling from the cards that I pulled. But I'd love to see what you have.
Well, it's interesting. The first energy I go into is that of scholarship. And this seems to be Adams that's coming in, John Adams, that I'm getting a message from.
Mm-hmm.
And the advice we're getting is to be good scholars. that we as Americans should first and foremost be ruled by our heads and our conscience and not so much by our emotions
Uh-huh.
in creating laws and implementing laws or building a nation. So the first card we get is definitely one that I associate with Adams and also with Jefferson to some extent because they were both brilliant. Jefferson was doing all kinds of research, genetics research, and we all know about, but also,
Yeah.
he was a craftsman, etc. But you have this kind of energy coming in telling us that the things that are solid in this world
Hmm.
that Adams is speaking of will survive the test of time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was getting. Like, hold to the basics.
Yeah, and that the more look, if you put something together, a house, and it's shabbily made, the first wind that comes along will blow it away.
Hmm.
And what John Adams is saying to us is he's saying, first and foremost, we were scholars.
Hmm.
The men and women that built the Constitution were scholars. We were able to use our minds and to attempt to be as rational as possible
Hmm.
and to build something that no amount of the winds of change will not sweep this away.
Yeah. In other words, a strong foundation, if you're using the metaphor of a house, a
Yeah.
structure.
So next to this scholarship, he shows us his opposition. And the opposition that Adams is showing us is the winds of change.
Uh-huh.
The winds of change, because the Eight of Wands is rapid changes and strife and the winds of change. And so we're seeing two images that are being communicated to us by John Adams. The first is hold strong to your wisdom,
Hmm.
your scholarship, build something that is based on solid foundations, so that the winds, Eight of Wands, your adversaries will not take you out. And then Adams goes on to say, you are asking about whether or not you will survive this. The Six of Wands moves in. Will I be victorious? And the final outcome is the Constitution.
Hmm.
How do we know it's the Constitution? Because the higher ethos of the United States, or the meaning of the Hierophant is the higher ethos.
Yeah.
And in a question about the government United States, the card of the United States or of the Constitution is the Hierophant. It
Hmm.
is the law, excuse me, it is the law of the land.
Yeah.
So what he is saying is that they worked very hard to build a foundation
Yeah.
based on true scholarship so that no amount of winds would ever take this away. And
Yeah.
in 6 months' time, you will see the Constitution rearing its ugly head.
Yeah. Well,
You'll survive.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm done.
I
That's
was
it.
just going to say, I had a brilliant high school history teacher. I just loved her. Judy Ray was her name. She just passed away last year. And I remember to this day a class where she was talking about the Constitution. And she said, this is a really remarkable document. Here it is, more than 200 and some years later. It still works. It
Yes.
still applies. It has adapted along with all of our changing times. She pointed that out. And I just, I had one more card in the deck that slipped out. Now, this may seem like I'm stretching a little here. Pleasure card, but it's reminding me of something else very important in the Constitution. We're guaranteed the right to the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, our pleasure. That's very, very important. And we still have that. We still have that basic right. It's like a God-given right to us. And it was incorporated. It was built into the Constitution. I don't
Mhm.
know. That's just what this card reminded me of.
Yeah. So I think what Adams is saying to us is that trust that we did a good job. Trust that
Yeah,
Mama and Daddy, Mama and Papa did a good job, and
that's
that
very reassuring.
yeah, the Hierophant was the
Yeah,
outcome. But at this time that we are being called to be like the founding mothers and fathers, to not let our emotions get the better of us,
hmm,
and to understand that no matter what it is in life we create, Build it on sound, a marriage, a house, it doesn't matter. If it's built on sound principles, it will survive. And that's what Adams is saying to us today. What a powerful thing to
That's
say.
beautiful. You know, I don't know about you, but I just feel such a rush of peace from that.
Yeah, I really,
Reassurance, peace. It
I
feels good.
yeah, this was the first time I channeled John Adams. I've never channeled him
Good
before.
for
And
you.
I really enjoy being in his energy because
Mm,
he is somebody who truly believes in being sane and rational. Of course, the dark side of that was that his son was an alcoholic and he had no sympathy for somebody who couldn't control his drink because he didn't understand the disease of alcoholism. You
yeah,
know,
especially in those days, there was so much not known.
yeah, so this is somebody who expects us to be scholars, expects us to do the time to have
Mm,
homework, to carry ourselves appropriately, and to make the necessary changes. And because this is what we did when we built this thing.
yeah.
Yeah.